it's David Wilcock, and I am bringing you an Alliance briefing update. And we have had quite a stunning synchronicity here on the eve of the public potentially getting new data dumps bigger than Edward Snowden, bigger than October 2016 WikiLeaks, potentially earth-shattering revelations. This is according to Kim.com, the same insider who knew what was going on before it happened with WikiLeaks. He is saying that we are about to get stuff that will dwarf what we got in October 2016. The whole trend of our society is already heading that way right now, as I will tell you in just a minute here. While my wife Elizabeth was in the kitchen writing an article about the fall of kings, this behemoth fell with this crashing noise in our yard. As you can see here, sticks hit the window. Okay, it almost smashed into the house. There's sticks all over the place. The whole, it's just a huge mess. This tree came down, and the synchronicity of this is unbelievable. Because, here's why. The subject of what we're talking about is the fall of kings, the collapse of corruption, the ending of the old guard. We are looking at right now tribunals that are allegedly taking place. We have very good intel on this from multiple insider sources that they have arrested right now key people in the deep state. They already have tribunals going on in several locations in the United States and apparently Guantanamo. There are prison barges taking people to Guantanamo, and what they've done is they have started with the mid-level people who were directly involved in child trafficking. The sealed indictments that we've been hearing so much about are being unsealed. People are being put on trial in secret tribunals. These are military trials. They happen quickly. Some people are getting the death penalty. This is very serious. It has not yet been authorized to be leaked to the public. Now, the people who are doing this think that they can make it stay secret for a year or two. They're hoping it could take that long. Because remember, the original mass arrest scenario I've been telling you guys about since 2009 was going to be everybody getting arrested at once. But it turns out when the rubber meets the road, the Alliance does not have the staff to do that. They're going to need to do it a little at a time. So it's going to take them a year or two to get everybody. Now, there are some factions. There's one faction, the Alliance, and this is a group opposing the deep state that represents the military, the intelligence community, and many other governments around the world, okay? That community doesn't want to tell us. There's one faction that is worried about the mess, but then there's another faction that says, this is definitely going to leak. We can't stop the leaks. They're coming out. There's nothing we can do about it. Kim.com is the guy who did Mega Upload, and he was one of the insiders who said what was coming with WikiLeaks before it did in October 2016. Kim.com, with that insider connection, is saying that we're going to get data dumps this year that are worse than anything we saw in October 2016, which of course is all the Podesta stuff, all the PZG stuff. You figure out what that means. So we're both writing articles. I'm writing my article. My wife Elizabeth is writing her article. And she is writing about the fall of kings. Now, the tribunals are the bigger picture behind all this. It's very exciting. But she also focused in on spiritual leaders like the alleged John of God, who we're now calling John of Hell. Why would we call him that? If you haven't seen the news, it's unbelievable. Here's a guy down in Brazil who supposedly, is it Brazil? I'm not sure, but let's just say Brazil. Okay, she said Brazil. She's nodding her head. I want to make sure of this because if I make one mistake, that's the only thing people get upset about, right? They're like, oh my God, I found a mistake. Okay, John of God in Brazil. I read this and I didn't really care what the country was because what I'm reading is just shocking me. 600 women have come forward saying that this faith healer raped them, okay? And it was always the same script. You go in for the private meeting, you go into a private room with the guy, he makes you turn around, and then he molests you. So it's just disgusting. But he says, oh, this is how you're going to get the healing. Now, if you haven't heard this, you might be shocked. It really is true. Apparently, he raped his daughter since she was 10 years old, beat her so severely after she got pregnant that she had an abortion, and even worse, he's got his own acolytes abducting women who are homeless and poor, bring them into a prison camp where they are repeatedly raped, they have children, and those children are sold off for up to 40,000 euros to the highest bidder. And then after 10 years, they terminated the women, killed them. Maybe because they were so traumatized that they would start beating their head against the wall or not eating anymore or whatever. We don't understand it, but these guys said, oh, we're getting tired of this. We don't want to do this anymore, and we don't want to lie about it anymore. So it's so crazy that we have these types of stories coming out in the news because we told you you're going to hear about child sex trafficking. They're going to be authority figures. They're going to be major players that you would never, ever believe would do stuff like this. She's writing this, and as she does, this gigantic tree that's like 100 feet tall almost, with a trunk that's like a foot thick, just comes crashing down. Sticks are hitting the windows. Thank God it didn't smash the windows. Our fence is totally trashed. The landlord's going to have to, get a crew in here with chainsaws and chop all this up. The point is, I don't believe this is an accident. This was a synchronicity. This is something in which the inner world that we have as we're writing these articles suddenly becomes the outer world with something really big like this. And it appears that there are energetics at play right now that are leading to all of these things happening. You're going to interrupt me during my video. Okay,
Alice,
this must be good.
Spiritual warfare. You don't have to say that.
Yeah.
You don't have to say that.
All right, we'll make another cut.
You can cut it, but it's spiritual warfare. Yeah.
So we're talking about spiritual warfare here. This is real, okay? What also is very bizarre, I'm not saying that John of God is a hoax. I'm saying the guy actually does do healings. And what's so bizarre is for people to try to reconcile the concept that somebody could have these types of abilities and still essentially be involved in basically black magic as well. Now, what's also very weird about the spiritual warfare component is that when they brought John of God in to be arrested, and he's in the police station, first of all, the letter 0 or O kept appearing on the screen like somebody was pushing the key, but nobody was touching it. That freaked him out. Then the printer starts up like there's a ghost in the machine, and it starts printing by itself. That freaked them out. Then the frickin' refrigerator explodes, fire and smoke comes out. Then the guy who's coming in to transcribe the interview with John of Hell gets hit by a car and breaks his arm. Now, they actually mentioned this in the article of UK Daily Mirror. This is a public thing. And it's almost like the negative forces that were working through John of Hell somehow were able to make these weird, chaotic, telekinetic events take place. Now, Corey Good and I have talked extensively about the idea that there are negative extraterrestrials out there, that they have been a major part of what's going on. We heard this from William Tompkins. We heard this from Pete Peterson. I've heard this from several other insiders who don't want to go on the record, such as Daniel, such as Jacob. This is nothing new. Some of the ETs that are out there that our military-industrial complex is very well aware of and has been dealing with for a long time are highly negative. And yes, they do have reptilian skin, vertical slit pupils. They look like your biblical idea of the devil. So it's a very interesting thing to contemplate how they have worked through different cultures, different susceptible people at different times, trying to find the way to get their agenda met, which is to basically try to create as much fear and terror as possible. That creates an energy for them that they can feed on called loosh. So here we are talking about how these rotten, corrupt institutions, like what's happening with the Catholic Church, Cardinal Pell gets arrested and convicted of sexual crimes against children. This just happened as well. It's as if there's some sort of spiritual shift that is taking place. So it's not just the Deep State Tribunals. Now that does appear to be real, and as I was just saying a few minutes ago, we are hearing that they don't think they're going to be able to keep this secret very long, because everybody leaks. Everybody wants to talk. Everybody wants to sell their story, make an exclusive, leak it to somebody. I don't want to do any leaks. I don't want to get in trouble for that, but somebody's going to take those leaks and run with it, okay, even if you're not supposed to. But the point is, we now are authorized also to say, Corey Good has told me, that we now can tell you that I did meet in person with my wife Elizabeth 3 different people who are very high-level alliance people. We know this. There was a binder that had all of their different intelligence certificates, classifications. It was huge. There were 2 whole boxes full of medallions and medals and coins that they get from all these different things. We saw more than enough proof. And the point is, whether you guys want to believe this or not, and I know most of you do, but there's a few out there who are really resolutely dedicated to just hate. They can't handle this thing. What we're dealing with is a real thing. There are hundreds of thousands of people involved in this alliance. They are fighting and dying for you. They want to preserve your freedom. They want to keep us alive. They want to stop the deep state. They don't like child trafficking. You don't have to like the current administration, but the current administration in the United States is behind these arrests. So it doesn't mean that they're saviors. It doesn't mean that they're white light angels. They got lots of problems. I'll be the first to admit that. Human beings are inherently flawed. But it doesn't change the fact that this is real, that the tribunals are underway. Child trafficking rings are being busted. Those people are being arrested. That's where they're starting right now, before they work their way up to the higher level players. It's all being filmed. They are going to release this to the media in the future. And we're writing about these literally civilization-defining events, and this giant tree comes groaning and crashing down right into our yard. It's so freaking crazy, this whole thing. You can see the thickness of the branches. This is not something that we expected. I mean, yes, the tree was leaning, so it's not exactly... You can actually see it's 2 trees that came down right here. So the fence is all smashed up. We didn't know that this was going to happen. And the only other time that I had a synchronicity like this was with Dr. Eugene Maloff. Now, he worked for MIT, for Infinite Energy magazine. Actually, no, that was his other magazine. He was a writer for MIT Technology Review. And they wanted him to falsify the data on cold fusion. They had already announced that cold fusion really works. Now, that's where you take palladium and drop it into deuterium, which is heavy hydrogen. And for some strange reason, the palladium and the deuterium react and create a lot more heat than there should be for that reaction. So MIT had already announced this along with other scientists, but then they wanted to retract it. And so they told Eugene Maloff, we want you to lie for us and say that this study didn't work. But he already knew that it did because he was involved in it. And so he resigned and then afterwards created Infinite Energy magazine. In 2004, Dr. Eugene Maloff got together with Richard C. Hoagland to go on Art Bell's Coast to Coast AM. And I was going to be in the show as well. And we were going to talk about how Hoagland was getting ready to go to Congress with a technology he got from Dr. Maloff. And that technology would actually be a little propeller that would spin just from the energy of your eyes looking at it. Now, normally there's nothing that could do that, but this actually worked. It's very strange. And so right before we were getting ready to do this radio show, like a couple days before, I'm walking down the street in Anchorage, Kentucky, where I lived with L&L Research at the time, and I look at this tree and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to talk about the Illuminati on the radio. F it. I'm ready. I don't care what happens. I'm going to talk about the Illuminati. And right as I'm looking at this branch, the whole thing just fell right from here, right from where it hits the tree. It just broke right here, and it just goes straight down, all the way down. And it was so big and so heavy that the whole ground shook when it hit the ground. Now, that scared the bejesus out of me. it made me realize that some type of positive force in this case, not like the John of Hell stuff, okay, the positive beings can do this too. It fell and it said, David, do not talk about the Illuminati on the air with 20 million people. And then the next day, I believe is when it was either 1 or 2 days later, Dr. Eugene Malov was bludgeoned to death. Literally the day before we're going to go on the air. So he never appeared on the air with us, and it was just Richard and Art Bell talking. I really didn't even talk that much. It was very somber. Richard was all upset because they were really good friends. And here's a guy who was the focal point for all the different alternative energy, free energy, groundbreaking, disruptive technologies out there. And he just got whacked. I mean, it was blatant. Now there's 3 people who've been charged in the attack. And so we don't really know, like, okay, why did they do this? Why did the main guy who murdered him start sucking his thumb in a fetal position on the ground when he was caught and then denied it? It's like a mind control type of thing. So it's very strange stuff. So we've been on the front lines for a long time, risking our lives to bring you this information. I was not intimidated after that, even though it was obviously a hit. I kept going. I've been doing this for 15 more years since that happened in 2004. So here we are writing about the one thing we've been waiting for all of our lives, the final completion of this hero's journey, that we're finally getting the results we want to have. We're finally getting the tribunals, the arrests. People are going to prison camps. Some of them are being executed because their crimes are so extreme. As we're writing about this, as we're writing about the fall of the corrupt masculine, the spiritual warfare that we are winning, this gigantic tree came smashing down. Now, I don't believe that's an accident. That's a real world, real life kind of synchronicity. It's very intense. And so it sparked me to action. I wanted to do a video for you guys to talk about this. And I believe that we are seeing a mass consciousness effect. Let's go back real quick to the meditation effect. What we have seen is 39 different scientific studies commissioned by the Institute for Transcendental Meditation, where they get up to 7,000 people together, meditating under one roof on pure consciousness. Then they all are able to somehow reduce world terrorism and fatalities by 72%. That means 3 out of 4 people in the world who would have picked up a gun and shot someone or would have committed a violent crime simply choose not to, suggesting there is a collective field that our thoughts are all integrated with. And this is just one of over 1,000 references like that I have in my first book, Source Field Investigations, which you may have read. So the point is, there's a lot of good science on this. It hasn't gotten enough publicity, but we know we have a mass consciousness. We know that there are mass consciousness effects. And just like those 7,000 people meditating changed everybody's free will on the whole world, they authorized something to happen. They authorized a change in our basic free will. So when women start standing up, like in the Me Too movement, against Harvey Weinstein, against Hollywood predators, against these sickos, these diddlers who are doing little kids, which are totally innocent people, they have never done anything wrong, and they are being violated, this must stop. There is no place for us to be arguing about who is right and who is wrong in the alternative community and fighting over the most piddly little things. We need to focus on a common enemy who is much bigger than some blogger. I'm not going to focus on other people in my community, whether they're telling the truth, whether they're lying. We have really big, dark stuff that we have to focus on. This is the war. The spiritual warfare is real. John of Hell, when they tried to bring him in, all these dark occult telekinetic things are happening. There are weird entities that were responsible for that taking place. We don't want this stuff to go on. We need the changes to occur. The tribunals are underway, and they are not going to stay secret for very long. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on. I've only given you part of it. The rest of it is going to be in my article. So please go to divinecosmos.com. You have to spell it with an I, not an E. So divinecosmos.com. You can read that article. You can read my wife's article as well. And we have had quite the synchronistic marker for that epic event that we were writing about, the tribunals, which is what I was writing about, the fall of corrupt kings, which is what she was writing about. All these guys are being exposed. The truth is being revealed, and you deserve to know what's going on, because children will be saved, lives will be saved, rapes will be stopped, and we will get the planet that we have always wanted, that has been promised to us in so many ancient prophecies around the world. I'm David Wilcock. I support the Alliance, and I support your efforts in getting this word across to as many people as you can, because this is real, and we all need to pull together to expose the truth. Thank you for watching.